powerful CEO sees a black single dad at the market and whispers, "Be my boyfriend," or "Lose your job." Terrell Chandler pushed his shopping cart through the organic produce section of Portland's upscale Riverside Market, his 6-year-old daughter Zuri sitting in the child seat, chattering about her upcoming school play. At 32, Terrell had perfected the art of single parenthood, juggling his job as a senior data analyst at Brightwater Technologies with soccer practices, bedtime stories, and grocery shopping on Saturday mornings. "Daddy, can we get the strawberries? The big ones?" Zuri pointed with the enthusiasm only a first grader could muster. "Sure, baby girl, but remember our deal. Vegetables first, then fruit." I know. Broccoli is brain food." She made air quotes, something she'd picked up from her teacher, Ms. Kendra, and Tyrell couldn't help but smile. He was reaching for organic carrots when he felt someone watching him. Terrell had developed a sixth sense for unwanted attention. Being a tall, well-built black man in predominantly white spaces meant he was used to suspicious glances, employees following him, the subtle and not-so-subtle messages that he didn't belong. But when he turned, he saw something unexpected. Sloane Whitaker stood 3 feet away, her blonde hair pulled back in an elegant ponytail, her designer casual clothes probably costing more than Tyrell's monthly rent. She was the CEO of Brightwater Technologies, his boss, several levels removed from his daily work, but absolutely in charge of the company's direction and everyone's employment. At 38, Sloane was a fixture in Portland's business magazines. Tech's Golden Girl, the woman who revolutionized data security, Portland's most eligible bachelorette. Terrell had seen her exactly 3 times in the 2 years he'd worked for Brightwater, twice at company-wide meetings and once in the elevator, where she'd been on her phone and hadn't acknowledged his existence. Now she was staring at him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Mr. Chandler," she approached with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. "I need to speak with you, privately." Terrell glanced at Zuri, who was watching this blonde woman with curiosity. "I'm shopping with my daughter. This will only take a moment." It wasn't a request. Something in her tone, the underlying steel beneath the polite words, made Tyrell's stomach tighten. Had he made a mistake at work? Was he being fired? He'd been so careful, so meticulous, precisely because he knew that as a black man in tech, he had to be twice as good to be considered half as competent. "Zuri, baby, can you count the apples in that display? I'll be right over there." He pointed to a spot 10 feet away where he could see her. "Okay, Daddy. 1, 2, 3. Zuri began her count, distracted. Tyrell followed Sloane to the quieter bakery section, his heart pounding with anxiety. He tried not to show. "Mr. Chandler, I'm going to be direct because I don't have time for subtlety. I need you to be my boyfriend, starting immediately." Terrell blinked, certain he'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "My boyfriend, for public appearances. My family's annual gala is in 2 weeks, and I need a date. Specifically, I need a boyfriend who can convince my grandmother that I'm finally settling down." "Ms. Whitaker, I don't understand." "My grandmother controls the family trust that funds 40% of Brightwater's operation. She's threatening to pull that funding unless I stop prioritizing career over family and find a suitable partner. The gala is where she'll make her decision. I need you there as my boyfriend to convince her I'm committed to building a personal life, not just a professional one." Tyrell's mind was racing. "Why me? You could ask anyone." "Because you're perfect. You're articulate, educated, clearly responsible." She glanced at Zuri, still counting apples. "You're a father, which suggests stability. My grandmother will approve. You want me to pretend to be your boyfriend, to manipulate your grandmother into continuing to fund your company?" "Yes. In exchange, I'll compensate you generously. $50,000 for 1 month of public appearances, dinners, the gala, perhaps a few other events." Terrell's first instinct was to refuse. This was insane. But $50,000, that was life-changing money. That was Zuri's college fund. That was the surgery his mother needed, but couldn't afford. That was breathing room he'd never had as a single father barely making ends meet despite his supposedly good salary. "And if I say no?" Terrell asked, though he already knew the answer. Sloane's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in her blue eyes. "Then I'll respect your decision, though I should mention that Brightwater is restructuring the data analysis department next month. Positions are being evaluated." I'd hate for your name to come up on the wrong list. There it was. The threat wrapped in corporate speak. Be my boyfriend or lose your job. That's blackmail, Tyrell said quietly, anger simmering beneath his calm exterior. That's business. Mr. Chandler, I'm offering you a substantial amount of money for minimal work. Attending events, being charming, pretending we're in a relationship. It's acting, essentially. And in return, you keep your job and gain financial security. It's a win-win. For you, maybe. What about when this fake relationship ends? What happens to my reputation? To how people at work see me? We'll handle the breakup discreetly. Mutual decision, different priorities. We're better as friends. Standard narrative. No one gets hurt. Tyrell looked at Zuri, still happily counting produce, completely unaware that her father's world had just been turned upside down. He thought about his mother, Verity, struggling with medical bills. He thought about his job, the security it provided, how impossible it would be to find another position that paid as well while allowing him the flexibility he needed as a single parent. And he thought about how Sloane Whitaker was using her power, her whiteness, her wealth, her position, to coerce him into a situation that served only her interests. I need time to think, Tyrell said. You have until Monday morning, 9 a.m., my office, your answer. Sloane pulled out a business card with her personal cell number. Call if you have questions. And Mr. Chandler, don't discuss this with anyone at work. Confidentiality is crucial. She walked away, leaving Tyrell standing in the bakery section of an organic market, holding a business card that might as well have been a hand grenade. Daddy, I counted 147 apples, Zuri called out, proud of her achievement. That's amazing, baby girl. Tyrell returned to his daughter, trying to smile, trying to pretend his life hadn't just been hijacked by a powerful white woman who saw him as a prop in her family drama. As he finished shopping, Tyrell's mind churned. This was wrong on every level. The power imbalance, the racial dynamics, the coercion. But the alternative, losing his job, struggling even more than he already did, was terrifying. What was he supposed to do? Hello, my Stop Racism family. Thank you for tuning in today. Before we dive deeper into this beautiful love story, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments below. Also, I'd love to know your thoughts. What did you think of the story so far? Do you believe love can truly conquer prejudice? Let us know in the comments. We love reading them. And trust me, your words motivate us to keep making these videos. Let's make this video reach at least 50 comments. Your support means the world to us, and it drives us to create even more meaningful content for you. So don't forget to comment, share, and keep spreading love. Tyrell didn't sleep that night. After putting Zuri to bed with her usual routine, story, prayers, 3 kisses on her forehead, he sat on his small apartment's balcony, staring at the Portland skyline and wrestling with an impossible decision. His best friend Jabari Lewis showed up at 9 p.m. with beer and intuition. Jabari was a high school teacher who'd known Tyrell since college, the kind of friend who could read his moods and knew when to push. Talk, Jabari said, handing Tyrell a bottle and settling into the other balcony chair. Tyrell told him everything. The market encounter, Sloane's proposition, the thinly veiled threat about his job. When he finished, Jabari was quiet for a long moment. Man, that's some next-level manipulation right there, Jabari finally said. Using her position to coerce you into being her fake boyfriend? That's not just wrong, it's potentially illegal. But $50,000, Jay, that's life-changing money. I know, and that's why she picked that number. High enough to be tempting, not so high it's suspicious. Jabari took a drink. The question is, can you live with yourself if you do it? Can I live with myself if I lose my job and can't provide for Zuri? You'd find another job, would I? You know how hard it was to get this position. 300 applications, Jay. 300. And Brightwater was the only one that paid enough for me to actually save money while covering daycare and rent. Tyrell's frustration spilled over. I'm good at what I do. Really good. But I'm also a black man in tech, which means I'm fighting bias at every turn. If Sloane fires me, and I have to explain why in interviews, you wouldn't have to explain. You could say the position was eliminated in restructuring. And when they call for references, when they dig into why a senior analyst suddenly became expendable, Jay, you know how this works. One bad exit, one questionable recommendation, and I'm marked. Jabari sighed. So you're seriously considering this? I don't see another option. She's got all the power, I've got none. You've got your dignity, your integrity. Dignity doesn't pay for Zuri's school supplies. Integrity doesn't cover my mom's medical bills. Terrell's voice broke slightly. I'm so tired, Jay. Tired of being paycheck to paycheck. Tired of choosing between saving for Zuri's future and helping my mom. Tired of being one car breakdown away from financial disaster. $50,000 would change that. Even temporarily, it would give me breathing room. And what does she get out of this? Besides convincing her grandmother to keep funding the company? Control? Probably. Sloan Whitaker strikes me as someone who needs to control everything around her. Including you. Yeah, including me. Terrell took a long drink. The messed up part? I looked her up tonight. Her family's story. Her grandmother, Celeste Whitaker, is old Portland money. Timber industry, real estate, the works. Very traditional, very conservative. Apparently, she's been pressuring Sloan to get married for years, threatening to pull family funding if Sloan doesn't settle down. So, instead of pushing back against her grandmother's outdated expectations, Sloan's dragging you into an elaborate lie. Seems like it. And you're the prop that makes her look good. The educated, responsible, respectable black man who proves she's not the cold career woman her family thinks she is. Jabari's tone was bitter. Tyrell, you know what this is, right? She's using you. Using your race, your respectability, your existence as evidence of her open-mindedness or whatever story she's telling herself. I know. Believe me, I know. But what's my alternative? They sat in silence, two black men contemplating systems of power that had been stacked against them since birth, trying to find dignity in impossible choices. If you do this, Jabari said, finally, protect yourself. Get everything in writing. The money, the timeline, the terms of the breakup. Don't trust her word. You think she'd screw me over? She already has. The question is whether she'll do it again. Sunday was harder. Terrell took Zuri to his mother's house for their weekly visit. Verity Chandler lived in a modest apartment in northeast Portland, surviving on disability payments and pride. The medical bills from her diabetes treatment were crushing, but she refused to let Tyrell help beyond small contributions. Baby, you've got your own child to raise, Verity always said. I'll manage. But she wasn't managing. Tyrell could see it in her tired eyes, the medications she was rationing, the meals she skipped to make ends meet. Watching Zuri and her grandmother bake cookies together, a Sunday tradition, Terrell made his decision. He would accept Sloan's proposition, not because it was right, but because it was necessary. Because survival sometimes meant compromising principles. Because protecting the people he loved mattered more than his pride. Monday morning at 8:55 a.m., Tyrell stood outside Sloan Whitaker's office, wearing his best suit and carrying the weight of a choice he'd never wanted to make. At 9 about exactly, her assistant, the efficient woman named Petra Vance, gestured him inside. Sloan sat behind a massive desk, backlit by floor-to-ceiling windows, every inch the powerful CEO in her domain. Mr. Chandler, your decision? Tyrell met her eyes, refusing to show the resentment churning inside him. I have conditions. I'm listening. Everything in writing. The payment schedule, the expected appearances, the timeline. I want a contract that protects me if you decide to change the terms. Agreed. I want half the money up front. $25,000 now. $25,000 at the end of the month. Sloan considered this. Acceptable, though I'll need you to sign an NDA. This arrangement stays confidential. Fine, but I also want protection regarding my job. Written guarantee that my position is secure regardless of how this fake relationship ends. Done. Anything else? Yes. We do this my way too. I'm not just your prop at fancy events. If we're pretending to be in a relationship, I need to know about you. Your family, your history, your personality. I can't fake chemistry with someone I don't know. For the first time, Sloan looked slightly uncomfortable. That seems excessive. That's my condition. You want me to convince your grandmother we're genuinely together? Then we actually have to spend time together. Get to know each other. Make this believable. How much time? Dinners, conversations, the things actual couples do. If I'm selling this lie, I'm selling it well. Sloan studied him, and Tyrell saw something flicker in her expression. Respect, maybe, or surprise that he was making demands rather than simply accepting her terms. All right, we'll have dinner this week. My assistant will coordinate schedules. And one more thing, Terrell said, his voice harder. Don't threaten my job again. Ever. We have an arrangement now. But if you try to use that leverage after we've signed this contract, I'll walk. I don't care about the consequences. The contract was drawn up by Sloane's personal attorney, a sharp woman named Lennox Hayes, who gave Tyrell a knowing look as she reviewed the terms with him. You should have your own lawyer review this, Lennox advised quietly, just to be safe. Can't afford one, Tyrell admitted. I can recommend someone who does pro bono work. Ms. Hayes, is there something in this contract that should concern me? Lennox hesitated, then said carefully, the contract is fair. I made sure of that. But Mr. Chandler, be careful. Sloane is my client and my friend, but she has a tendency to view people as assets, useful resources. Make sure you maintain your boundaries. Tyrell signed the contract. $25,000 appeared in his account the next day. He immediately paid off his mother's medical debt, set aside money for Zuri's expenses, and tried not to think about what he'd sold to get it. Their first dinner was scheduled for Wednesday at a quiet Italian restaurant far from downtown Portland. Sloane arrived exactly on time, dressed more casually than he'd seen her. Jeans, a soft blue sweater that matched her eyes, minimal makeup. She looked more human, less like a corporate ice queen. Thank you for meeting me, Sloane said, as they were seated in a private booth, part of our arrangement. Right, our arrangement. She seemed uncomfortable, like she didn't quite know how to proceed. So, tell me about yourself. The real version, not the resume. Tyrell leaned back, studying her. Why do you want to know? Because you were right. If we're going to convince my family we're together, I need to know you. What makes you laugh? What makes you angry? What you dream about? That seems intimate for a business transaction. It is, but it's necessary. Sloane met his eyes. Tyrell? Can I call you Tyrell? That's my name. Tyrell, I know this situation is complicated. I know I put you in an impossible position. But if we're doing this, let's do it right. Let's actually try to make it believable. Against his better judgment, Tyrell found himself talking about Zuri, his fierce, brilliant daughter who wanted to be an astronaut, about his mother, who'd raised him alone after his father died when Tyrell was 10, about the struggle to break into tech, the constant code switching, the exhaustion of being black in white spaces. Every day at work, I'm on, Tyrell explained. I can't be too loud or I'm aggressive. Can't be too quiet or I'm not a team player. Can't be too confident or I'm arrogant. Can't be too humble or I'm not leadership material. It's a constant performance, making sure I never give anyone a reason to doubt I belong there. Sloane listened intently, and Tyrell saw something in her expression he hadn't expected. Genuine understanding, maybe even guilt. I never thought about it that way, Sloane said quietly. The performance aspect, how exhausting that must be. That's privilege. You don't have to think about it because it's never been your reality. You're right. And I'm sorry, not just for that, but for putting you in this position, for using my power to coerce you. That was wrong. Then why did you do it? Sloane was quiet for a long moment. Because I'm desperate. My grandmother isn't just threatening to pull funding. She's threatening to sell her shares to Hendricks Blackwood, who wants to take over Brightwater and gut it for parts. Everything I've built, everyone who works for me, including you, would lose their jobs. I thought if I could just convince her I was settling down, getting my personal life in order, she'd back off. So you're sacrificing me to save everyone else? I'm trying to find a solution that doesn't destroy everything. Yes, I'm using you. Yes, I'm leveraging power I shouldn't have. But Tyrell, I'm also offering you money that will change your life. Isn't that worth something? It's worth my participation, not my respect. The word stung, and Tyrell saw Sloane flinch. Good. She should feel the weight of what she was doing. But as the evening progressed, something unexpected happened. They actually talked. Real conversation, not corporate small talk. Sloane told him about building Brightwater from a startup to a major player in data security, about her difficult relationship with her family, who saw her success as unwomanly, inappropriate, something to be corrected. My grandmother once told me that a woman's greatest achievement should be a good marriage and well-raised children, Sloane said. My company, my awards, my innovations, none of that matters to her. She sees my success as a failure because I'm unmarried and childless at 38. That's archaic. That's my family. Old money, old values, old prejudices. She paused. You asked why I picked you specifically. The truth? Because you're everything they disapprove of. Black, middle class, a single parent. You're the opposite of the country club heir they expect me to marry. I don't know what I thought. Maybe that bringing you would shock them into realizing I'm not playing their game anymore. So I'm a rebellion? A statement. You're a person who I'm using unfairly, but also a person I'm starting to respect. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone grateful, compliant, someone who'd take the money and not push back. Sloane smiled slightly. You're none of those things. Is that a problem? No. Actually, it's refreshing. Everyone at work agrees with me because I'm the CEO. Everyone in my family defers to my grandmother because she has the money. You're the first person in a long time who's treated me like someone who can be challenged. Their server, a young man named Casey Nash, brought their entrees. As he left, Tyrell noticed how Casey had been deferential to Sloane, barely acknowledging Tyrell's existence, a familiar dynamic that stung every time. Does that bother you? Sloane asked, noticing his expression. Being invisible unless I'm attached to someone important? Yeah, it bothers me, but it's normal. People see you first because you're white, wealthy, powerful. I'm just the black guy in the background until proven otherwise. That's not okay. No, it's not. But it's reality. My reality, every day. Tyrell took a drink. This fake relationship, Sloane. You know it's going to make things worse for me, right? People at work will wonder why the CEO is dating a data analyst. They'll assume I'm sleeping my way to promotion, that I'm using you for advancement. Black men don't get the benefit of the doubt in these situations. I'll make it clear that's not the case. You can't control how people think. But you know what? For $50,000, I'll deal with it. I've dealt with worse. The evening ended with a strange understanding between them. They weren't friends, but they weren't just business partners either. They were two people trapped in a situation neither liked, trying to make the best of it. As Tyrell drove home, he thought about Sloane's story, her pressures, her desperation. He almost felt sympathy for her. Almost, because at the end of the day, she still had all the power, and he had none. The gala was in 10 days, which meant Tyrell needed to meet some of Sloane's family beforehand to make their relationship seem established rather than brand new. The first introduction was a Sunday brunch with her younger brother, Donovan Whitaker. Donovan was 28, charming in the way privileged young men often were, working in his family's real estate development company while apparently spending most of his time rock climbing and traveling. He greeted Tyrell with enthusiasm that seemed genuine. So you're the guy who finally got Sloane to slow down and smell the roses, Donovan said, as they sat at a trendy brunch spot in the Pearl District. Honestly, I thought she'd work herself into an early grave before she'd date anyone. Your sister is very dedicated to her career, Tyrell said carefully. That's one word for it. Obsessed is another. Donovan grinned at Sloane. I'm glad you finally found someone. And bringing him to the gala? That's going to give grandmother palpitations. Why? Tyrell asked, though he knew the answer. Donovan's smile faltered slightly. Because you're not what she expects. Look, I'm going to be straight with you. Our grandmother is old school. Very old school. She has opinions about appropriate partners and social status, and he means she's racist. Sloane interrupted. Stop dancing around it, Donovan. I wasn't... Okay, yes, she has some outdated views about race and class, but she's 86. She's not going to change. That doesn't excuse it, Sloane said firmly. Tyrell should know what he's walking into. Grandmother will likely be cold to him, maybe even rude. But I'm bringing him anyway because I'm done catering to her bigotry. Tyrell appreciated the directness, even as he felt his stomach knot with anxiety. He dealt with racist family dynamics before. Zuri's mother's parents had made their disapproval of him abundantly clear before disappearing from their lives entirely. But this felt different. This was walking willingly into hostility, playing a role, pretending to love someone who'd coerced him into this situation. I can handle racist old ladies, Tyrell said. I've had practice. Donovan looked uncomfortable. That's really sad, actually. That's America. After brunch, Donovan pulled Sloane aside while Tyrell pretended to check his phone. But he heard their conversation anyway. Sloane, he seems great, but are you sure about this? Bringing him to the gala is going to start drama you might not want, I'm sure. Because if you're just trying to shock grandmother, I'm trying to live my life. If that shocks her, that's her problem. When Sloane returned, she seemed determined. We need to prepare you for the gala. The family dynamics, the key players, the politics. They spent the next few evenings at Sloane's penthouse apartment, a stunning space that overlooked the Willamette River and probably cost more than Tyrell would make in a lifetime. Zuri came with him because childcare was expensive and he'd exhausted his favors with Jabari. "Your house is like a castle," Zuri exclaimed when she saw the space. "Are you a princess?" Sloane laughed, the first genuine laugh Tyrell had heard from her. "Not quite, but thank you." To Tyrell's surprise, Sloane was good with Zuri. She showed her the view from the balcony, let her play with an old telescope set up in the corner, asked about school and friends, and Zuri's dreams of being an astronaut. "Space is really far away," Sloane said seriously, crouching to Zuri's level. "You'll need to study hard to get there. Math, science, engineering. I know. My teacher says I'm really good at math. Daddy helps me practice every night." "Your daddy sounds pretty great. He's the best daddy in the whole world." Zuri hugged Tyrell's leg. "Even though he's sad sometimes." The words hit harder than they should have. Tyrell looked down at his daughter, this perceptive little person who saw more than he wanted her to see. "I'm not sad, baby girl." "Yes, you are. You think I don't notice, but I do. You get quiet and your face does this." She demonstrated a thoughtful, worried expression that was apparently Tyrell's default when he thought no one was watching. Sloane was observing this exchange with an unreadable expression. After Zuri got distracted by a book on the coffee table, Sloane pulled Tyrell aside. "She's right. You do look sad, worried. I'm a single parent working in tech while raising a daughter and caring for my sick mother. Worried is my natural state. The $50,000, is it helping?" "Yes. My mother's medical debt is paid. Zuri's school expenses are covered. I can breathe a little easier." He paused. "That doesn't mean I'm happy about how I got it." "I know. Tyrell, I want you to understand something. This arrangement, it wasn't just about convenience. I chose you specifically because I'd been watching you at work. The way you handle problems, the way you treat people, your integrity. I've seen you defend junior analysts when senior managers tried to throw them under the bus. I've seen you stay late to help colleagues meet deadlines. You're a good person. That's why I wanted you for this." "You wanted a good person to manipulate?" "I wanted a good person who might understand why I'm desperate enough to do something this morally questionable." Before Tyrell could respond, Zuri called out, "Daddy, can Sloane come to my school play? It's next week and I'm a tree." "Baby, Sloane is very busy." "I'd love to," Sloane said, surprising them both. "What day?" And just like that, their fake relationship started feeling uncomfortably real. Sloane actually showed up to Zuri's school play. She sat next to Tyrell in the crowded elementary school auditorium, watching first graders perform a musical about the rainforest with more enthusiasm than skill. When Zuri came on stage as tree number 3, delivering her one line with perfect seriousness, Sloane clapped as loudly as any parent there. "She was amazing," Sloane said afterward, as Zuri rushed over with her costume still on. "Did you see me? Did you see me?" Zuri bounced with excitement. "You were the best tree I've ever seen," Sloane said solemnly. "Very convincing." The moment was sweet, genuine, and it confused Tyrell deeply. This wasn't part of their arrangement. They'd agreed to public appearances at fancy events, not elementary school plays. But here Sloane was, voluntarily spending her evening watching 6-year-olds sing off-key songs about biodiversity. At work, the dynamic was shifting too. Word had spread, through carefully planned leaks from Sloane's assistant Petra, that the CEO was dating someone. Nobody knew who yet, which led to rampant speculation. Tyrell's colleague Camden Price cornered him in the break room. "Dude, have you heard the rumors about Sloane Whitaker? Apparently she's got a secret boyfriend. $20 says it's that venture capitalist she was photographed with last year." "Maybe," Tyrell said non-committally. "Whoever he is, lucky bastard. Sloane's brilliant, gorgeous, rich, though I bet she's intense as hell to date. Probably schedules sex into her calendar." The casual objectification made Tyrell uncomfortable, but he couldn't defend her without revealing their arrangement. His other colleague, Rhea Sutton, was more perceptive. She pulled Tyrell aside after a team meeting. "You've been different lately, less stressed. Did something good happen?" "Just handling some financial stuff. Nothing major." "That's good. You deserve a break, Ty. You work harder than anyone here." She paused. "You know there's a company policy about relationships with supervisors, right? Just be careful if you're seeing anyone from work." Tyrell's heart stopped. "What makes you think?" I don't think anything specific. Just friendly advice? HR takes that stuff seriously, especially with the power dynamics. Just saying. After she left, Terrell called Sloan immediately. People are suspicious. My colleague Rhea basically warned me about relationship policies. Does she know about us? She suspects something. Sloan, when this goes public, it's going to be a whole thing. My colleagues will assume I'm getting special treatment, that I'm using our relationship for career advancement. I'll make it clear that your work stands on its own merit. That won't matter. People believe what they want to believe. And a black man dating his white boss, they'll write their own narrative. That evening, they met at Sloan's penthouse to finalize plans for the gala. Zuri was with Tyrell's mother, giving them privacy to discuss logistics. The gala is Saturday, Sloan said, pulling up a file on her tablet. It's black tie at my grandmother's estate in Lake Oswego. About 200 guests, family, business associates, society people. We'll need to be convincing. Physical affection, inside jokes, the appearance of genuine intimacy. How intimate? Hand-holding. Maybe I lean against you during conversations. Nothing sexual, obviously, but enough to show we're comfortable with each other. Terrell shifted uncomfortably. And your grandmother? What's her name? Celeste? Celeste Whitaker. She'll interrogate you. Ask about your background, your family, your intentions. She'll be polite but cutting. Don't let her rattle you. I've dealt with racist questioning before. I know. But Tyrell, she's subtle about it. She won't say anything overtly racist. She'll just question everything about you in ways that imply you're not good enough. Your education, your career, your ability to provide for me, even though I don't need providing for. Great. Can't wait. Sloan caught his tone. I'm sorry. I keep saying that, but I mean it. You shouldn't have to endure this. But I'm going to because $50,000. Because $50,000, Sloan echoed quietly. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Sloan said something unexpected. Can I ask you something personal? Haven't we crossed that line already? Fair point. What happened with Zuri's mother? Terrell tensed. Why? Because it's part of your story. If my grandmother asks, and she will, I should know the answer. He considered refusing, then decided it didn't matter. She already owned a piece of his life. Might as well give her the context. Her name was Lyric. We dated in college, got pregnant accidentally. She wanted to terminate. I convinced her to have the baby and promised I'd take full responsibility. Zuri was born, and Lyric stayed for about 3 years. Never really bonding with her, always resentful. Then one day she left, just packed up and disappeared. Haven't heard from her since. She abandoned her daughter? She signed over full custody, relinquished parental rights. Legally, she's nothing to Zuri now. That must have been devastating. It was, but also a relief. Zuri deserves a parent who wants her. Lyric didn't. Better she left than stayed and made all of us miserable. Sloan was quiet, processing that. You're a good father. Zuri is lucky to have you. Thanks. Though most days I'm just winging it and hoping I don't screw her up too badly. That's all any parent does. The conversation shifted, but something had changed. They were sharing real things now, not just surface details for their fake relationship. It was becoming harder to remember this was business. Saturday arrived too quickly. Terrell picked up the tailored tuxedo Sloan had insisted on buying him. Another uncomfortable reminder of the financial imbalance between them. When he put it on, he barely recognized himself. The man in the mirror looked expensive, polished, like he belonged in rooms he'd never imagined entering. Zuri's reaction was priceless. Daddy, you look like a prince. Just for tonight, baby girl. Grandma's going to stay with you, okay? I know. Are you going to kiss Sloan? People at fancy parties always kiss in movies. I don't know, baby. Maybe. The idea terrified him. Not because he didn't want to, which was its own problem, but because it would blur lines they'd carefully maintained. Sloan arrived to pick him up in a chauffeured car, and when Tyrell saw her, his breath caught. She wore a deep emerald gown that made her blue eyes luminous, her blonde hair styled in an elegant updo. She looked like she belonged on magazine covers. You look beautiful, Terrell said honestly. You look distinguished. We clean up well. In the car, Sloan's nervousness became apparent. She kept fidgeting with her clutch, checking her phone, adjusting her dress. Hey, Terrell said gently. We've got this. We've practiced. We know each other's stories. It's going to be fine. What if she sees through it? Then we deal with it. But Sloan, you're basically asking me to act like I care about you. That's not going to be hard. She looked at him sharply. What do you mean? I mean, I do care about you. I didn't want to. I tried not to. But spending time with you these past 2 weeks, seeing how you are with Zuri, Hearing your story, understanding your pressures, I get you now. So pretending to like you won't be pretending. Sloane's expression was unreadable. Tyrell, I'm not saying I've forgotten how this started. The coercion, the power imbalance, all of it. But I'm saying you're more complicated than I thought. More human. Is that good or bad? I haven't decided yet. They pulled up to the Whitaker estate, a mansion that looked like it had been transported from an English countryside. Valets, string quartet playing in the garden, women in gowns and men in tuxedos mingling with champagne glasses. Ready? Sloane asked, extending her hand. Tyrell took it, and they walked into the gala together. What did you think of today's story so far? Did it warm your heart, make you believe in love even more? Share your thoughts below because, honestly, reading your comments is the highlight of my day and motivates me to keep sharing these beautiful love stories. The moment they entered, Tyrell felt every eye in the room turn toward them. Not subtle glances, full stops in conversation, heads turning, people staring at the CEO of Brightwater Technologies with her unexpected date. A black man at a Whitaker family gala. The whispers started immediately. Sloane's grip on his hand tightened, but she kept her expression serene, confident. Just stay close to me. Let them stare. They were immediately approached by Petra, Sloane's assistant, who'd been coordinating logistics. Celeste is in the conservatory. She wants to meet him before the dinner service. Of course she does. Sloane turned to Tyrell. This is it. Remember, we've been dating 3 months. We met through a mutual friend at a charity event. Got it. And I adore you because you're brilliant, driven, and make me laugh. Do I make you laugh? Sometimes. Usually when you're trying to be intimidating and just come off as adorably frustrated. Sloane actually smiled. A real one, not the polite CEO version. Adorable. That's a new one. The conservatory was stunning. Glass walls, tropical plants, a fountain in the center. And there, surrounded by orchids like some kind of botanical throne, sat Celeste Whitaker. At 86, she was still formidable. Sharp eyes, elegant posture, expensive jewelry that probably cost more than Tyrell's car. She watched them approach with the intensity of a predator assessing prey. Grandmother, Sloane said, leaning down to kiss her cheek. This is Tyrell Chandler. Tyrell, my grandmother Celeste. Mrs. Whitaker, it's an honor to meet you. Tyrell extended his hand. Celeste looked at it for a long moment before taking it briefly. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Mr. Chandler, how unexpected. I've heard wonderful things about you from Sloane, I'm sure. Sloane, dear, would you give us a moment? I'd like to speak with Mr. Chandler privately. Sloane hesitated. Grandmother, it's fine, Tyrell said. I'll find you in a few minutes. After Sloane left, reluctantly, Celeste gestured to the chair across from her. Sit, let's have a conversation, you and I. Tyrell sat, maintaining eye contact, refusing to be intimidated. You're younger than I expected, Celeste began. Sloane has always dated successful men, accomplished, from good families. The implication was clear. You are none of these things. I work for Brightwater Technologies, senior data analyst. Ah, so you work for my granddaughter. How convenient. We met outside of work, actually, at a charity event. Which charity? The test question. Sloane had prepared him for this. The Northwest Education Fund. They provide scholarships for underprivileged students. I'm on the volunteer committee. It was actually true. Tyrell had joined the committee years ago, wanting to give back, but it also fit their cover story perfectly. Celeste's expression shifted slightly. Not approval, but acknowledgement that his answer was acceptable. And you have a child, I understand. A daughter? Zuri. She's 6. The mother? No longer in the picture. I have full custody. I see. A single father. That must be challenging. It's the greatest blessing of my life. Celeste studied him with those calculating eyes. Mr. Chandler, let me be direct. My granddaughter is very wealthy, very successful. She will inherit substantial assets from our family. Do you understand why I might be concerned about the men she chooses to involve herself with? There it was, the accusation wrapped in polite concern. You're after her money. I understand completely, Tyrell said calmly. If I were in your position, protecting a family legacy, I'd be cautious too. But Mrs. Whitaker, I don't need Sloane's money. I have a good job, financial stability, and I'm raising my daughter just fine. What I see in Sloane isn't her wealth. It's her intelligence, her drive, her passion for innovation. She challenges me intellectually in ways I've never experienced. That's worth more than any inheritance. Celeste was quiet for a long moment. You're articulate, educated. Thank you. That wasn't entirely a compliment. You're good at saying what people want to hear. But Mr. Chandler, I've lived 86 years watching people try to manipulate their way into this family's fortune. What makes you different? Honestly, nothing. You don't know me. You have no reason to trust me. But I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to trust Sloane's judgment. She's brilliant at reading people, assessing situations, making strategic decisions. If she chose me, perhaps that says something about who I am. Or it says something about her current mental state. Sloane works too hard. She's under tremendous pressure. Sometimes stress causes people to make questionable decisions. Tyrell felt anger flash through him, but kept his voice level. You think I'm a questionable decision. I think you're a risk, an unknown variable in a carefully balanced equation. Life is full of risks, Mrs. Whitaker. The question is whether the potential reward is worth it. I believe Sloane is. The question is whether you believe the same about me. Before Celeste could respond, Donovan appeared at the conservatory entrance. Grandmother, they're calling everyone to dinner. You're needed at the head table. Celeste stood with surprising grace. We'll continue this conversation another time, Mr. Chandler. For now, enjoy the gala, though I suspect you'll find yourself somewhat out of place. She swept past him, leaving Tyrell alone with Donovan. Rough? Donovan asked sympathetically. Could have been worse. She likes you, actually. If she didn't, the conversation would have been much shorter. Grandmother only bothers interrogating people she thinks might actually stick around. That should have been reassuring. Instead, it made Tyrell uncomfortable. This was temporary. He was leaving after the month. Celeste's approval was meaningless. So why did it bother him that he'd earned it under false pretenses? The dinner was excruciating. Tyrell was seated next to Sloane at a table with her family and several business associates. Conversations swirled around him. Deals, connections, name-dropping of people he'd never heard of. He smiled, nodded, played the role of supportive boyfriend. But he also noticed the looks, the way some guests stared at him and Sloane together, the whispered conversations behind raised hands, the very careful way people asked about their relationship, probing for details, looking for cracks in their story. One woman, introduced as Gwendolyn Ashford, an old family friend, was particularly pointed. How lovely that Sloane found someone so different. It's very progressive of you, dear. The coded language was exhausting. Different meant black. Progressive meant willing to date outside her race. I'm lucky, Sloane said smoothly, taking Tyrell's hand on the table. Tyrell is exactly what I needed. Someone who sees me as a person, not just a CEO or a Whitaker. Someone genuine. How did you two meet again? Gwendolyn pressed. Through a mutual friend, Tyrell supplied. At a charity event. We started talking about data security, which sounds boring, but Sloane made it fascinating. 3 hours later, we were still debating encryption methods over champagne. It was a good story because it was partially true. They had discussed data security during one of their prep dinners, and Sloane had indeed made it interesting. Gwendolyn seemed satisfied, moving on to quiz someone else. You're good at this, Sloane whispered. I'm good at performing. Survival skill. After dinner, there was dancing. Tyrell led Sloane onto the floor, very aware of how this looked. A black man holding a white woman at a predominantly white, wealthy gala. He saw Celeste watching from her table, her expression inscrutable. She's assessing us, Sloane murmured. I know. How am I doing? Better than I expected. You handled her interrogation well. Years of code switching prepared me for this. They swayed to classical music, and Tyrell realized how perfectly Sloane fit in his arms. How right this felt, despite being completely wrong. Tyrell, Sloane said softly, thank you for doing this. I know it's uncomfortable. It is, but it's also not entirely terrible. She pulled back slightly to look at him. Not entirely terrible. High praise. Don't let it go to your head. But there was warmth between them now, something real beneath the performance. And when Tyrell bent to kiss Sloane's forehead, a gesture that would look affectionate to observers, he found himself wanting it to mean something more than just playing a role. They were in dangerous territory now. The lines between fake and real were blurring, and Tyrell wasn't sure how to stop it, or if he wanted to. The morning after the gala, Tyrell woke to dozens of notifications on his phone. Photos from the event had been posted on social media by various attendees. Most were innocuous, standard gala shots, but several showed him and Sloane together. dancing, laughing, his forehead kiss that had been captured in perfect detail. The comments section was a war zone. Who is that guy? He's hot. Wait, isn't that Sloan Whitaker's employee? Major HR violation? Of course she'd date a black guy. Virtue signaling at its finest. I think they're cute together. Why is everyone being weird? Gold digger. He's obviously after her money. Tyrell stopped reading after the 20th comment. His phone rang. Jabari. Dude, you're all over Instagram. My students are asking if I know you. What the hell happened at that gala? What was supposed to happen? We played the part. You played it too well. Ty, there's a video of you two dancing. You look at her like she's the only person in the room. That's not acting. Jay, I can't talk about this right now. Because you've caught feelings. Oh man, this is bad. This is really bad. It's not. I haven't. But Tyrell couldn't finish the denial because it was a lie. He had caught feelings. Somewhere between Zuri's school play and last night's dance, he'd started actually caring about Sloan Whitaker. At work Monday, the atmosphere was electric with gossip. Tyrell arrived to find Camden and several other colleagues huddled around a phone. Holy shit, is that really Sloan? Camden was saying. Wait, is that Tyrell? They looked up as he approached, faces cycling through shock, curiosity, and something uncomfortably close to accusation. Dude, Camden said, are you dating Sloan Whitaker? That's personal, Tyrell said carefully. Personal? You're all over social media. You two were at some fancy gala together. How long has this been going on? A few months. The murmurs intensified. Rhea appeared, her expression concerned. Tyrell, can we talk? Privately? They stepped into an empty conference room. Rhea closed the door and turned to him with worry written all over her face. Please tell me you know what you're doing. I do. Do you? Because dating your boss, especially the CEO, is incredibly risky. If this goes south, you're the one who will pay the price, not her. I know that. Do you? Tyrell, you're one of the best analysts here. You've earned your position, but now people are going to assume every promotion, every project assignment, every good thing that happens in your career is because you're sleeping with the boss. That's not fair, but it's reality. I'm aware of the optics. It's more than optics. It's your reputation, your professional future. And Tyrell, I'm saying this as a friend, you're a black man dating a white CEO. That's going to bring scrutiny you don't want. People will make assumptions, say things. It could get ugly. It already has. Before Rhea could respond, Petra appeared at the door. Mr. Chandler, Ms. Whitaker needs to see you. Her office. Now. The walk to Sloan's office felt like a death march. Colleagues watched him pass, their expressions ranging from envy to judgment to pity. Tyrell kept his head high, refusing to show how much their stares affected him. Sloan's office was tense. She stood by the windows, and when she turned to face him, Tyrell saw genuine distress in her expression. We have a problem, Sloan said without preamble. Hendricks Blackwood, the man trying to buy my grandmother's shares. He's using our relationship against me. He's calling it unprofessional, claiming I'm compromising the company with inappropriate relationships. He's demanding a board meeting to discuss my fitness as CEO. Can he do that? With grandmother's backing, yes. And Hendricks is feeding her doubts about you, about us. He's saying you're a distraction, a scandal waiting to happen. Proof that I'm not focused on the company. But the gala went well. Your grandmother seemed convinced. She was, until Hendricks spent all day Sunday at her house, showing her social media comments, digging up every negative thing he could find about us. Now she's wavering. Tyrell felt cold dread. What are you saying? I'm saying we might need to extend our arrangement. The 1 month might not be enough. If we break up now, it looks like we couldn't handle the scrutiny. Like Hendricks was right to question my judgment. So what? We stay together longer? Sloan, people at work are already making assumptions. My reputation is taking hits. How much longer do you expect me to do this? I'll increase the compensation. Another $25,000 for another month. This isn't about money anymore. Tyrell's frustration exploded. Do you understand what you've done? You've put a target on my back. Every person at this company is questioning whether I've earned my position or just slept my way into your good graces. My colleagues look at me differently. My work is being scrutinized in ways it never was before. And you want to extend this? I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. You just keep making ones that serve your interests while asking me to pay the price. They stared at each other, the tension thick enough to cut. Finally, Sloane spoke, her voice quiet. "You're right. I've been selfish. I've used you from the beginning, justified it with money, convinced myself it was a fair exchange. But Tyrell, I need you to know, this stopped being fake for me. Somewhere along the way, I started actually caring about you, about us." Tyrell's anger wavered. "What? I'm falling for you, really falling, and I know that doesn't excuse what I've done. If anything, it makes it worse because now I'm using our actual connection to manipulate you into staying. But I'm being honest. I have feelings for you, real ones. Sloane, don't say anything yet. Just think about it. Think about whether you feel it too. Because if this is just business for you, if you're only here for the money, then we should end it now. But if there's something real between us, if you feel even a fraction of what I feel, then maybe we can turn this fake relationship into something genuine." Before Tyrell could respond, his phone rang. Zuri's school. His stomach dropped. "I have to take this." "Hello? Mr. Chandler, this is Principal Webb. Zuri's fine, but there's been an incident. Some children saw photos of you online with Ms. Whitaker. They're asking questions, making comments. Zuri got upset and is in the nurse's office. Can you come pick her up?" Tyrell felt his world crumbling. "I'll be there in 15 minutes. He hung up and turned to Sloane, his expression devastated. "This fake relationship, it's affecting my daughter now. Kids at her school are talking about it. She's upset. I have to go." "Tyrell, I'm so sorry. Save it. I need to take care of my child. The child you apparently never considered when you dragged me into this." He left, leaving Sloane standing in her office looking genuinely stricken. At Zuri's school, Tyrell found his daughter in the nurse's office, tear-stained and confused. "Daddy, is Sloane your girlfriend for real? Or is it pretend?" Zuri asked. "Malia said you're only with her for money. I said that's not true, but then she showed me her mom's phone with people saying mean things about you." Tyrell pulled his daughter into a fierce hug, his heart breaking. This was the cost he hadn't calculated. Not just his own reputation, but his daughter's innocence, her trust, her sense of security. "It's complicated, baby girl, but I promise you, everything I do is to take care of us, you and me, always. But are you happy with Sloane?" That was the million-dollar question, wasn't it? "I don't know," Tyrell admitted. "I really don't know." That evening, after putting Zuri to bed with extra reassurance and cuddles, Tyrell sat on his balcony trying to make sense of his life. His phone buzzed continuously. Messages from Sloane he wasn't ready to read. Calls from Jabari checking on him. Even a text from his mother asking if the lovely blonde woman from the photos was someone special. Everyone had opinions. Nobody understood. Around 10 p.m., his doorbell rang. Tyrell considered ignoring it, but something made him answer. Sloane stood in his doorway, still in her work clothes, looking more disheveled than he'd ever seen her. No perfect makeup, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, eyes red like she'd been crying. "I know you don't want to see me," Sloane said, "but I need to tell you something. The truth, all of it." "Sloane, please just listen." Against his better judgment, Tyrell let her in. They sat in his small living room, such a contrast to her penthouse, and Sloane took a shaky breath. "I told you I was desperate to convince my grandmother to keep funding Brightwater. That's true, but it's not the whole truth. The real reason I need her support, the reason I was willing to do something as unethical as coercing you into this arrangement, is because if Hendricks takes over the company, he'll destroy everything I've built, not just for me, for everyone who works there. 300 employees, Tyrell. 300 people whose jobs, whose livelihoods, whose futures depend on keeping Brightwater independent. You told me that before. But what I didn't tell you is that I have a brother. Had a brother. Elliot. He died 7 years ago, when he was 25. Tyrell hadn't expected that. "I'm sorry." He worked for a tech company that got bought out by a corporate raider like Hendricks. The new owners gutted it, fired most of the staff, sold off the assets. Elliot was one of the casualties. He'd been struggling with depression and losing his job, losing the purpose he'd found in that work, pushed him over the edge. He killed himself 3 months after the layoffs. The room was heavy with grief. Sloane's hands were shaking. I watched what that did to my family, to my mother especially. She's never recovered from losing Elliot, and I promised myself I would never let that happen to people depending on me, that I would fight with everything I had to protect them. So when Hendricks started circling, when grandmother threatened to sell, I panicked. I saw my employees' faces, their families, their futures, and I did the first thing I could think of to fix it. You used me. I used you. And I told myself it was justified because I was protecting all those people. But the truth is, I was also protecting myself from the guilt of losing another group of people I'm responsible for, from becoming another CEO who let their employees down, from the trauma of watching people I care about suffer because I wasn't strong enough to save them. Tears were streaming down Sloane's face now. Tyrell, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking you to stay in this arrangement. What I'm asking is for you to understand that when I said, I'm falling for you, I meant it. You're the first person in years who's seen me as a human being, not just a CEO or a Whitaker or a resource to be used. You've been real with me, challenged me, made me laugh, made me feel things I thought I'd shut off permanently. Sloane, I love how you are with Zuri. The patience, the joy, the absolute dedication. I love that you called out my privilege and my prejudices. I love that you demanded respect, even when I was trying to manipulate you. I love your integrity, even when it's directed at me. Tyrell, I love you. And I know that's the worst possible thing to say right now because I've given you every reason not to believe me, or trust me, or even like me. But it's the truth. Tyrell sat in stunned silence. Part of him wanted to tell her to leave, that love built on coercion wasn't real love, that they couldn't overcome the foundation of their relationship. But another part, the part that had enjoyed their dinners, that had felt something real during the gala, that had started imagining a future he shouldn't want, that part ached with recognition. I can't do this anymore, Tyrell said finally. Not like this. Not with lies and arrangements and contracts. If there's something real between us, and I'm not saying there is, it needs to start fresh. No fake relationship, no money, no coercion. Just two people deciding whether they want to try something genuine. What did you think of today's story so far? Did it warm your heart? Make you believe in love even more? Share your thoughts below, because honestly, reading your comments is the highlight of my day and motivates me to keep sharing these beautiful love stories. What about the gala? My grandmother? The company? That's your problem to solve, not mine. I'll return the money. No, you earned that money by putting up with it. Keep it. Use it for Zuri, for your mother, for your future. It's yours. And the job? Are you going to fire me if I end this? Sloane's expression was stricken. God, no. Tyrell, your job was never actually at risk. I was bluffing. I would never have fired you, even if you'd said no at the market. I'm many things, but I'm not that cruel. I needed you to believe it, so you'd say yes. That was wrong. The confession should have made Tyrell angrier. Instead, he felt a strange relief. His job was secure. The coercion had been an illusion, even if the psychological impact had been real. I need time, Tyrell said, to think, to figure out what I actually feel versus what I've convinced myself I should feel. Can you give me that? As much time as you need. After Sloane left, Tyrell sat alone with his thoughts. The past 3 weeks replayed in his mind. Every conversation, every moment of connection, every time he'd felt something real beneath the facade. He called Jabari. I need advice. Real advice, not just friendship platitudes. Okay, shoot. I think I'm in love with Sloane Whitaker, and I have no idea what to do about it. Jabari was quiet for a long moment. Does she love you back? She says she does. Do you believe her? That's the question, isn't it? Can you build real love on a foundation of coercion and lies? People have built relationships on worse. But Ty, the question isn't whether you can, it's whether you want to. Are you willing to forgive what she did? To trust her moving forward? To risk your heart on someone who's already shown she'll manipulate you when desperate? I don't know. Then you need to figure it out. Because there's no halfway here. You're either all in or all out. The next week was strange. Tyrell went to work, did his job, avoided Sloane as much as possible. She respected his space, only interacting when absolutely necessary, keeping everything strictly professional. But he saw her watching him sometimes, caught her looking sad when she thought no one was paying attention, heard from Petra that Sloane was working even longer hours than usual, throwing herself into saving the company without the fake relationship to help her. Hendrix's campaign against her intensified. The board meeting was scheduled. Celeste was wavering, swayed by arguments that Sloane's personal life was becoming a liability, and Tyrell realized something. He did love her. Despite everything, despite the terrible beginning, despite the coercion and manipulation, he loved her. The woman who'd shown up at Zuri's school play. The woman who'd cried in his living room. The woman fighting desperately to save her employees from the fate her brother had suffered. She was flawed, deeply flawed. But so was he, and maybe that was okay. On the day of the board meeting, the one that would determine Sloane's future as CEO, Tyrell made a decision. He walked into that boardroom uninvited, unannounced, and stood before a group of powerful people who had no idea who he was. "My name is Tyrell Chandler. I'm a senior data analyst at Brightwater, and I'm dating your CEO. I'm here to tell you that firing her would be the worst decision this board could make." Celeste Whitaker looked shocked. Hendricks looked furious. Sloane looked like she might cry. "Mr. Chandler," Hendricks said smoothly, "this is a closed meeting. I know, and I don't care. You want to fire Sloane because she's dating me, because it's unprofessional or scandalous or whatever excuse you're using. But let me tell you something. I work for this company. I see what Sloane does every day, how she fights for her employees, how she innovates, how she builds something meaningful instead of just chasing profits. She saved my mother's life with the health insurance this company provides. She created a work environment where I, a black single father, can thrive professionally while still being present for my daughter. She built something worth protecting." "That's very touching," Hendricks said dismissively. "But it doesn't change the fact that she's made poor personal decisions. Like dating me? You mean like dating a black man? Let's call it what it is. You're using our interracial relationship as ammunition, betting on people's prejudices to turn them against her. That's what's really unprofessional." Here, the room was silent. Celeste was studying Tyrell with new intensity. "Mrs. Whitaker," Tyrell addressed her directly, "when you interrogated me at the gala, you asked what made me different from other people trying to manipulate their way into your family's fortune. I told you to trust Sloane's judgment. I'm asking you to do that now. Trust that she knows what she's doing. Trust that she's built something extraordinary. Trust that she deserves your support." "Mr. Chandler," Celeste said slowly, "are you asking me to approve of your relationship with my granddaughter?" "No, ma'am. I'm asking you to support her regardless of whether you approve, because her personal life shouldn't determine her professional fate." Celeste was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned to the board. "I've heard enough. I'm maintaining my funding for Brightwater. Hendricks, your bid is rejected. Sloane remains CEO. This meeting is adjourned." The board filtered out, leaving Tyrell and Sloane alone in the conference room. "You didn't have to do that," Sloane said, tears in her eyes. "I know, but I wanted to, because I love you, really love you. Not because of arrangements or money or contracts, just because." Sloane crossed the room and kissed him. A real kiss, not performance, not pretense. Just two people who'd found something genuine in the most unlikely circumstances. When they finally broke apart, Sloane whispered, "Where do we go from here? Forward. Together. And this time, we do it right."